This is Janey Street, and you're listening to Rock at Night.
Yeah, are you ready? Hey, tonight I'm gonna take you on a little trip. We're going down south by the mighty Mississippi. I'm gonna take you to a place where lights never dim. Bring your mother, your brother, and your best friend. I'm gonna show you where they dance out in the street. They'll tell you all about your body heat. Not gonna talk about it, just gonna do it. Get on down if you feel up good. Get on down.
Hi, my name's Anita Stewart, and this interview is for Rock at Night, and our column is Yes, She Rocks. And today we're interviewing Janey Street, who has just come out with her latest EP titled I'm Not the Girl I Used to Know. And Janey, thank you for joining Rock at Night.
Oh, thank you.
And I listened to the EP this afternoon. Wow, it's really good. It's almost like a diary of sorts. The music is, I would say maybe the first three cuts are kind of like a pop standard, but then you go into something that's really more urban tinged and folky, and I like the scratch in the beginning of it, My Side of Paradise, and then Bring It On. You've just recorded this. You're from Queens, am I right? And you've recently moved to Nashville, or was that move some time ago?
Oh, no. It's a long story. I'll make it short. I grew up in Queens. I lived a lot of my adult life in New York, all over the city, from East 82nd Street to East 82nd Street to Greenwich Village to Woodstock, New York. But most, grew up in Queens, until I became, moved away from my parents' house. And then in the 80s, I moved to Los Angeles and lived on the beach. And then I came to Nashville. So I've hit every single, music city there is, really. But I'm really in Music City now, in Nashville.
And it's really amazing how Nashville has really blossomed. It used to be associated primarily with the country music scene, but there's so many other artists converging there. It's kind of almost like Austin, but it's more like an East Coast type of Austin because it's all genres, all musicians, and really anything goes. Is that kind of like the atmosphere there?
Yes, very much so. I mean, the country music itself on radio has completely changed and become much more like rock and pop. We really have had a diverse community here for a long time, but I think people are just starting to realize it. And it's getting more that way, and country music is just becoming, it's not the same old traditional, as far as I'm concerned, it was really great at one time, and I don't think it really is as much as it was. But, it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different animal now. And but Nashville, living in Nashville, it's always been about songwriting. That's been the whole thing. Where Austin has been more about acts and performing and artists. This town is about artists too, but it's the songwriting has always been the main focus. It's become less the main focus, but as far as the community goes, it really is the focus. Everybody co-writes. People write for publishers. Everybody gets together. It's a whole thing, and it's great. It's really great because it's a smaller community than the songwriting in Los Angeles or New York. Like I was involved in all those communities as well, but this one here is just really condensed. It's together, and so I love living in all the different places I've lived in, and all the music I've made in the different places I've lived. So, but Nashville has changed. Yes, definitely.
And even the genre, as you mentioned this, the genre of country music in general has become more country rock, country pop.
Exactly.
So it's not like twangy country music that we heard when we were younger. Even though I love some of that too, like Willie Nelson and Waylon and the old standards.
Right. Yeah.
Now you got
the songs were a little bit like the golf group days, late 90s. The
Right.
songs for Canning Ann and Nashville were just fabulous. And I think that's become, unfortunately, less important in as far as country radio goes. Not as far as, you could be in Nashville and go to any writer's night here and hear the greatest songs, and you'll never hear them on the radio, which is kind of frustrating when you're a songwriter living in Nashville, but that's the way it is here for some reason.
Well, the music industry has changed quite a bit, and you got your start back in the 80s, and you had some pretty powerful friends in the music business, Clive Davis for one, and you had charted 2 singles that were getting up there, and then all of a sudden you were dropped. How did that happen? The singles, for any 80s people that are listening, were titled Under the Clock and Say Hello to Ronnie. How did you get dropped after, charting those?
Oh, yeah, it was a little crazy. Not only did I have 2 singles, but I also had a VH1 in those days, in the 80s, VH1 and the video world, where there were videos, there were a lot of different video outlets, more so than today, different video, stations TV stations that played them all over the place. So I was like in the top 10. Under the Clock was like almost number 1 video for a long time in medium rotation on VH1. I really don't know why I got dropped, but I just, what happens is sometimes there's other factors that are behind the scenes that I don't know that's going on that I really think that, I really just don't know. And the other factor is it's just a decision. They put money into promoting you, and if by a certain point, even if you're charting and you're doing good and it looks like you're going to, do well if they keep going, they just make a decision whether to keep on pumping money into you or to not. And I guess I was starting to make some noise, and then they decided to not continue to, push it. And I wasn't selling enough records fast enough or something. It's kind of like that. I mean, I'm not the only one. There are so many artists that have experienced the same thing. It's not really, it's really not that unusual. But in my case, it was probably a little unusual because I really was starting to make a lot of noise. So I really don't know the politics behind it at all. I just found out that it was over one day,
And it must have been a devastating time emotionally to be dropped like that. But then you continued always working, always having your hand in the music business in some way, shape, or form. Your bio says you've done quite a lot of other things, painting houses, waitressing, which you got to do what you got to do, but always in the music, I think, is the staying power of an artist. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how you think the music scene has changed from back in the 80s to now, and what's really dramatically different?
Look, the music industry has always been very difficult, and then it was difficult, and now it's difficult. The biggest change really happened back in the 60s and 70s when all the executives really didn't know what was going on, and it was a very creative period where, the Doors to, Bob Dylan to all these great people that made all this great music. Like, the record labels really didn't control it. They just sort of signed everybody, and everybody did all this great work, and the business people didn't get involved because they didn't really know what they were doing. And then there came a certain time, probably in the late 70s disco era, where it's the lawyers and all those kind of people started controlling the music industry. And when that happened, it became like, somebody like, like, let's say somebody like Taylor Swift comes out, right? And she manages, and her career very early on was completely financed by her dad, actually. And she comes out and she really hits it. And then there's 10 other Taylor Swifts that come out on 10 other labels. So it became very, a very big lack of vision. Now, one of the things that I think has changed a lot over the last recent decade is, people making independent records, studios being home studios, where anybody with no talent could actually make a record and put it out. So what happens is that the market is completely saturated with people that are really just, mechanically putting things together, and it's just like everybody from people that are, that hire you for gigs, radio, everything that's a way to reach your audience becomes saturated with a million other things. And in the older days when I was coming up, the people that was, not that everybody was really good, but it was like there was nobody just making, these independent projects, which is great for a lot of artists. There's another side to that coin, because there are a lot of great independent artists that actually do very well and are very good at marketing themselves, and they have great careers doing that, and they're really good. So, I'm not saying everybody's, what I'm just saying is there's a mix of so many people making music, and most of it is not that good. So you've got 20 people trying to get in the same room, somewhere, and it's like not everybody can fit. And so, it's difficult if you're really good, even if you're on a label, or even if you're independent, you have to fight off all these other everything is saturated. So I think that's changed the industry a lot, Plus all the and then of course there's the issue of the copyright owners, publishers, which I know a lot about because I live in the songwriting world here in Nashville, and the streaming and the internet, like, people don't make any, copyright owners don't make hardly any money out of any of that. So music is being used, and we're not making any money in there. And there's discussions with BMI, ASCAP, Nashville Songwriter Association, who I am very involved with. They go down to Washington and try to change legislation so that we could get, it straightened out here, so we could get paid for our music. So, there's that whole issue. So that's basically the differences between now and then, I would say.
We've had other artists tell us that they're actually not making as much money off their music as they are off their merchandise, which I find just crazy. Their merchandise is really what funds them and keeps them going and allows them to be creative and to continue songwriting or touring or both. What do you say to that? Have you had any experience with that yourself?
Well, when you do, it really, you sell the most, physical, instead of downloads, you sell the most physical CDs and T-shirts and hats or whatever you have. If you're an independent artist or an artist on a label, it doesn't even matter, and you're really a big artist. You make most of your money at your concerts or your club dates or your house concerts or whatever you're doing, because people come, and that's when they just really want to buy everything that you have. On the internet, they download stuff, but you don't make as much money on those either as you do on the physical CDs that you used to. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
And it's just strange. It really is. People are making more money touring and selling merch. They call it merch. Than they are from radio or the internet or any of those kind of outlets. In a lot of ways. I mean, somebody like Lady Gaga, or Beyonce or somebody like that doesn't have any of those kind of issues. They sell a lot of stuff at their concerts, and they also have a lot of outlets that they get paid very well for, But when you're an artist that's sort of like, just an independent artist or a niche artist or not a well-known artist, but you're out there working, you could make a living, if you tour enough and you could do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Do you feel that you're treated any differently in, just among your peers because you're, an older woman, more experienced? Do you find that there's any prejudices that go along with that in the music industry or locally?
You just asked the big question. Let me tell you something. I guess you don't realize it until you get to be older. There is the entertainment industry has always been youth-oriented, and you have to accept that. It's like, you know what I mean? Even when Frank Sinatra, who's a great artist, or Elvis Presley, the Beatles came in. They were the new thing. You know what I'm saying? If you look back, there's always been that generational, difference. And, you know, the new generation comes in and does something different, and that's what's cool. And then the next generation comes in and does something different. What's weird about where I'm at is that my generation was really the pop explosion, and my age group, we're so vital and so different because we were all just a bunch of hippies, and we still are. And but yeah, the problem here in Nashville is really bad because in Nashville, all the older writers got all the hit, wrote all these great songs and got all the hits, and now all these same writers that came up here that are older, that are great songwriters, are all getting pushed out of the whole thing because of their age. And they're just write with younger writers that are signed to labels that don't know how to write, and they have to write their songs for them, and it's kind of like they have to vicariously live through these younger artists that really don't have themselves together, and it's a very weird system. The ageism in Nashville is just awful, and it's something that's not been characteristic of Nashville. And of course, it's Hollywood has been like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that, but Nashville was never like that. So it's kind of, it's really not, and they're also, the business, the publishers and the record labels are also very, if you notice, there are not a lot of women stars. They're also
right.
Guys. They're all guys. So we're all mad about that. Older women. And
well, women have something to say, especially older women, just the experience of being an older woman and being a wise woman. It seems like we're automatically shut out no matter what we say or what we do, and our gifts are not recognized in a lot of the times. So
I totally get you. I mean, it's terrible, but the thing is, I have been fortunate, though, in a sense. I mean, I'm very fortunate that this record label signed me because that's really unheard of in my business. Absolutely, that's number one. And they love what I do, and they don't care that I'm my age. And I don't, it's really kind of cool. You know what I'm saying?
Now, this was A Blue Elon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Blue Elon.
Okay, and they're the label that signed you. How did you get that connection? How did that happen?
Well, that is a crazy story. I was just hanging out here co-writing, and actually, my age and what I do is one thing that's been good about that I've been able to turn it around is I actually mentor, and I still do it when I have time, young up-and-coming artists. And I really, really enjoy that. And, it's just, that's really rewarding for me.
Right.
Like living through my life in the music industry and really knowing what I know and being able to share it and give them shortcuts so that they're not running around like they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? I love that. And I really have I really just enjoy teaching. I really do. And I do know a lot. So it's kind of weird. Like I wake up one day and I go, gee, I really know a lot about this now. But I like to say, but what was the question again? Because I got it off on a tangent. But,
the question was, how did you make that connection with the record label?
So back in the 80s, I had this, big hit, these chart records and this huge, under the clock video, and then I, kind of just went behind the scenes, wrote for film and TV, played gigs, painted houses, everything. I just did the odd jobs, and I always did music mainly to make a living, but it was tough, so I had to do some other things because it was like lousy money. So I was here in Nashville co-writing with people, in and out of publishing deals, trying to get cuts, and out of the blue, and I did do an independent blues record. Okay, it was like something that I always wanted to do, and I put it out, and I did a lot of gigs and worked on that. And I was on, I had a website and a fan club and the whole bit. And one of my fans in my fan club got in touch with my fan club president and said, please forward this to Janey. And it said, we have a new record label. We're launching a new record label, and I always loved your music, and I would love to talk to you. And one thing led to another, boom, 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 and we signed a deal. And then I was out in L.A. making a great record with Dave Darling, who's a great producer, and boom, 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 and you've got it in your hand right now.
Wow. as I said, I listened to this a little bit earlier today. What was the catalyst for this music? And were these songs that you had been kicking around for a while, or were they completely brand new when you went into the studio?
Completely brand new. I'll tell you the truth. I've been co-writing here in Nashville and trying to get cuts with, like, the up-and-coming next, Luke Bryan or whatever, or, anywhere from all the movie stuff, from rap, R&B, everything. Just writing all this kind of stuff with different people, getting into producing some young artists here and there, working with them, mentoring, a lot of mentoring, gigging, doing house concerts, whatever. And when I got hit with this thing out of the blue, I signed this record deal. The guy was such a big fan, he just signed me. And I didn't have any songs that I had written for myself because I wasn't planning on doing another record at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I had to go out to L.A. to meet them all, and I had to put a whole bunch of songs together. So I actually wrote about 15 songs, like, within a series of 6 weeks. And
wow.
And one or two of them were existing songs that I had written previous, but maybe very recently previous to getting the deal. And I went out to L.A. and I met with the producer and the label and played all the work tapes and the demos and everything. And everybody said, "Oh, okay, do your record now. This stuff is great." So that's how that went.
Well, I'm telling you, I really enjoyed listening to it. It's 5 songs on this EP. I'm Not the Girl I Used to Know is the title, and that is the title track. Tears Taste the Same, Situation, My Side of Paradise, and Bring It On. Now, what are you going to do with the rest of the songs that you wrote? What are your plans?
Well, those 5 songs are sort of a like little teaser in a way, because those songs are going to be on the 13 full record CD that's coming out June 25th. And
okay.
So it's going to be, these songs are like just, they decided they wanted to put out an EP and then put out the record, the way that they do things, record labels and promotion and PR and all that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put out the record, and then it's going to be a whole different game, because there's a whole bunch of really good stuff on this record. It's just, and it really holds up as a whole. I did the record as one thing, and then we decided. Then the label wanted to just put out an EP of the 5 songs and then put out the whole record. So I think people are going to enjoy the whole thing. There's a lot of really great songs on there besides the 5 songs you have. So it's going to have 13 songs. There'll be some bonus tracks as well. And I think it's going to be, I can't wait for the whole thing to come out. But the EP, it's kind of cool that I kind of like the EP thing. It's kind of cool. It's kind of it's the way that record labels do things now. And
it's promo, and it's advertising, which is what they want to do before they put out, a full release. Let me ask you this: what do you have in your CD player right now?
I usually listen to my CD stuff in my car. My CD player, I listen to a lot of jazz and classical music. And let's see. And I like a lot of modern music, but I mostly listen to that on iTunes. On Spotify.
Right.
I'm actually guilty of streaming myself. So if you were to go back into the 80s right now, like time travel, what band would you like to see that you didn't get to see live back then? The 80s, man, that's I don't know. I'm trying to remember who was around. I was living in L.A. and there were just so many bands.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that the people that I really liked, that I was supposed to go see and didn't get to see, was the Beatles a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
I had tickets, and it's a long story, but I didn't get there. And I was very young at that time. But also, I've seen the Rolling Stones. I I don't know. I really like some of the groups like Train, but they're more modern. The 80s. I don't know. There were a lot of great groups in the end. Look, Annie Lennox.
Annie Lennox, yes.
She was great.
She's one of my favorites. She's one of my favorites.
Right, and there were so many other people like her that I really liked that I just can't think of off the top of my head because let me see, the 80s. Let's see, who else was around? That boy, what was it? Like the Eagles, they were doing
right
stuff back in the 80s, and Glenn Frey passing was just really devastating. We've lost
quite a lot of male artists this year.
Yeah. I mean, when I think back on that period, I think of those people, and it's just really heartbreaking. But they made some great music, and I'm here now doing what I'm doing. It's just crazy.
And the women seem to have the staying power for what from what I'm seeing just on the current music scene, and a lot of the older artists that have come back. The women seem to have the staying power. They come back and they'll do like a tribute album or the latest album, or I was just listening to Mavis Staples the other day, and I'm going, wow, she's been around for a really long time, and she's still recording. And, that, and she's in her 70s or 80s. I have no idea exactly how old she is, but, the fact that she's still recording is quite an accomplishment.
You never stop doing this stuff.
Right. What are your plans for the next 5 years, or have you thought that far ahead yet?
Well, I don't know. I've been living such a crazy life. It's always been very hard. I've never been one to think ahead. That's why I ended up being in the music business.
Right.
But I plan on doing another record pretty soon here, record 2 for my label, and plan on touring. And there's a lot of interesting things I want to do. I want to write another screenplay. I've written one.
Oh, wow.
I've written sitcom. I'm into writing TV sitcoms and screenplays and stuff. I haven't really had any luck. I almost got like a 6-episode sitcom sold to Fox, but that deal fell through. And it was actually a thing based on Nashville. And now they have the Nashville thing, but it was like a Golden Girls, but Nashville. It was great. It was a great thing. But
wow.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. But anyway, that was way before my. I'm always thinking ahead of other people. They finally did something on Nashville. A lot of people try to do TV shows on Nashville before Nashville, the TV show that really came out, which has done very well.
Yeah.
I just want to just keep making really great music. I would like to get into producing some young artists and working with young artists too as well. I don't know if I'm going to have time for all of that because I'm, going to be working as my own artist, and I don't know, writing a script. I've done it once, and it's very, very consuming. So depending on, my time, right now I'm just starting to get off the ground with this EP, and it's already. There's so much to do every day. I mean, I have lists and lists with my manager. It's it's like a whole, there's just so much going on right now that I couldn't ever sit down and write a screenplay right now, or do any of my other things that other creative things. And I just have to, I've been writing, getting ready for actually I just came back from Muscle Shoals, and I wrote just 2 songs down there with this great writer, Billy Lawson. That was great. And I've never been there before, so it was great to go down and see Muscle Shoals. That was really historic.
That's quite a legacy, that place, from what I hear.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, the greats have been there, so like Duane Allman and so many others, recorded there regularly.
Everybody's recorded there, and my guy that I write with over there, he has his own big studio now, and a lot of people are recording at his studio there. And he took me. He goes, "Well, this is where Paul Simon and Mick Jagger ate." Went to this restaurant. And it was really lousy food. But
wow.
He's really into it. he tells me about every. He's so into. He has a real Southern accent. He goes, "It's usually Paul Simon," and he tells me about this guy and that guy. And I'm sort of not a starstruck person myself. Oh, this mic is what Percy Sledge used. I said, okay.
Wow.
So I had a good time down there. I'm just recuperating from the drive today, but we wrote 2 great songs, and it was really great. So but that's how I want to spend my time. Writing. I love recording and I love writing. Those are my 2 favorite things, and I love to perform live. So this new record company that's really great is giving me a chance to really do that it's an more intense way, but it's also giving me a lot of room so I can do more of it, which is really cool. Definitely.
Now, one of your best friends is Janice Ian, who's definitely well known in the music business. What would you tell us about Janice Ian that probably many music aficionados would not know?
Oh, I don't know if they wouldn't know. Janice and I go back. We met in camp when we were like 11. I was like 12. She was 13 or whatever. And she was kind of like in the folk scene, kind of like with her, this was a camp where Richie Havens used to come up and Pete Seeger, and it was like that kind of place, And I was already doing like, Mick Jagger stuff. Like I was like the big rock star of camp. I was like, ain't got no satisfaction. Janice was writing songs already, and we became really good friends because we were the only girls that we both knew. In those days, girls didn't play guitar and sing and write songs and everything. I mean, it was really unusual. There weren't that many of us. You know what I mean? At that age,
right?
And so we connected really, and we just really became great friends. And I sort of watched her become a child prodigy with Society's Child when we were like 14. I mean, she was making like all this money like at 14 years old. That was before.
I remember that song. I remember that song got continuous radio airplay. My father at the time owned WQTW in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, a radio station, and it had constant airplay.
Yeah, well, we were only we were little kids, so she had all
right.
It was crazy, and we had it was a lot of fun. She was really. The one thing I will say that maybe a lot of people don't know, she's one of the most generous people. She's in my life. She has been always so generous with me, and just very giving. She just gave me this really expensive, incredible guitar, and she goes, "Just consider it a record release present." She loves the record. She wrote "My Side of Paradise" with me. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Oh, so she wrote that. Well. That's amazing. I had no idea that was co-written. I thought it was all by, good. That was a thing I didn't know.
Yeah, right. Well, it's on this EP. It's written down, but, if you don't look at the credits, you're not going to know. But, yeah, she was the first, she was the first person I called when I got this record deal. I said, "Janice, are you sitting down?" I said, "Listen, I just got signed to this record label." And she got so excited about it once she started learning more about the label and everything like that. And she said, "Look, let's write." So we wrote. We've written together before, but not that often, considering the long friendship that we've had. And she said, "Let's write." So she put away 2 days for me, like before I went out to L.A. to record. I actually was going to go out and record, and I was just doing a couple of extra songs to see if I could top the other songs that I had. And I actually did. I wrote like 3 songs in between Nashville, L.A., Nashville, and then back to L.A. to record. So My Side of Paradise was, one of my hooks, one of my ideas. I, went over her house, and she lives here in Nashville. She's the one that got me to Nashville, influenced me to come here. And we wrote My Side of Paradise. Went out and wrote My Side of Paradise, and I played it for my producer, and it got on. And that was it.
That's amazing. How can people find you through the regular socials? I know your website is JaneyStreet.com. Is there anywhere else? Are you on Tumblr, Twitter, and all of that?
Yes, I have a Twitter account. I'm on Facebook. I have I have a personal page, Janey Street, and I also have a fan page. We're trying to build up the fan page now, so just as find me. The thing that people have to remember is that my name is spelled Janey, not IE, and
right.
Find me, JaneyStreet.com, and on my website there's links to all of my other stuff, to Facebook, to all the other stuff as well. So, and then there's a SoundCloud of my new EP, so you can listen to it and see if you like it, and you can order. There's links to order it on Amazon and iTunes and all that. So it's all there.
Janey Street, thank you so much for joining us at Rock at Night, and thank you for this interview. It was lovely, and we loved it. I love the EP, as does my editor, and we're looking for even more songs to come from you. So we will definitely check out the album when it comes out in June, the full-length 13-song album. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank
you.
We appreciate it.
You're listening to Rock at Night.
Thanks for the intro melody. It's called Get On Down by Billy Bass Alford. Thanks.